I've been in a wheelchair since a childhood accident. I came home early and heard my mom say, he still doesn't know. My sister replied, if he learns the truth, we're finished. I stayed silent and shocked them both. When I heard my mother laugh and say, he still doesn't know, I thought she was talking about a surprise party. Then my sister Natalie said, if he ever finds out the truth about the accident, we're all finished. And my hands froze on the wheels of my chair. I'd come home early that Tuesday. Remote work has its advantages when you finish a project ahead of schedule. The house was supposed to be empty. Mom at her book club, Dad at the hardware store, Natalie visiting from Portland. But there they were, voices drifting from the kitchen like poison gas under a door. 19 years, my father's voice, tight with tension. We've kept this quiet for 19 years, and we'll keep it that way. My mother's tone had that edge she gets when she's convincing herself of something. Devin's doing fine. He has his design work, his apartment downtown, a studio apartment he can barely afford, Natalie cut in a building with a broken elevator half the time. The leather of my wheelchair grips creaked as my fists clenched. What matters, Dad said firmly, is that he never finds out what really happened that day, what we did. My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step I didn't know was there. I'd been 9 years old when the accident happened. 19 years in this chair, 19 years of being told the same story. Drunk driver, rainy night, hit and run. The driver was never caught. Bad luck, wrong place, wrong time. I'd heard it so many times it had become background noise in my life, like the hum of the refrigerator or the sound of rain on windows. If Devin finds those medical records, Natalie's voice had risen slightly. He won't, Mom interrupted. Dr. Patel sealed them. We made sure of it. Dr. Patel, our family physician, the one who'd been there since before I was born. I rolled backward as quietly as possible, every wheel rotation feeling like a scream in the silence. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The hallway seemed longer than it had ever been. Each family photo on the wall, graduation pictures, holiday snapshots, all those carefully constructed moments felt like evidence of something I was only beginning to understand. In my car, hands shaking on the steering wheel I'd had custom installed, I sat in the driveway for 20 minutes. Traffic passed on the street. A neighbor walked their dog. The world kept moving like nothing had changed, but everything had changed. What did they do? I'd spent 19 years building my life around a single narrative. Physical therapy at 6 in the morning before school. Adaptive sports programs on weekends. Learning to navigate a world that wasn't built for wheels. I'd made peace with my body, with my limitations, with the drunk driver who'd stolen my ability to walk and was never found. But if there was no drunk driver, my phone was in my hand before I'd made a conscious decision to pick it up. I scrolled through my contacts until I found a name I hadn't called in over a decade, Officer Vincent Reese. He'd been the first responder that night. He'd visited me in the hospital 3 times, bringing coloring books and telling me stories about his daughter who was also 9. I'd kept his card all these years, tucked in a box of childhood memories I rarely opened. The phone rang 4 times before he answered. Reese. Officer Reese, this is Devin Thorne. I don't know if you remember me, but Devin. His voice warmed immediately. Of course I remember. How are you? The question hung there like a trap. I need to ask you something about the accident, I said. The one from 19 years ago. The warmth evaporated. Silence stretched between us, filled with things neither of us was saying. I think we should talk in person, he said finally. We met 2 days later at a coffee shop near the precinct. I got there early, positioning myself at a corner table where I could watch the door. My laptop bag sat on my lap, filled with every document I'd been able to find. Hospital discharge papers, physical therapy records, insurance claims, anything with a hint of information about that night. Reese walked in at exactly 3:00 p.m., which somehow didn't surprise me. He looked older, gray at the temples, lines around his eyes, but he moved with the same careful authority I remembered from the hospital. He was in civilian clothes, jeans, and a button-down shirt, but he still had that cop stance, that awareness of exits and sightlines. He bought coffee for both of us without asking what I wanted. Black, 2 sugars. The fact that he remembered after 19 years made my throat tight. You're not here for small talk, he said, settling into the chair across from me. I overheard my parents and my sister talking, I said, about the accident, about keeping something from me, about what they did. Reese's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I need you to tell me the truth, I continued. Was there really a drunk driver? He looked down at his coffee. The pause told me everything I needed to know before he even opened his mouth. Devin, he said slowly, I need you to understand something. I wanted to tell you, multiple times, but legally, I couldn't. You were a minor. Your parents had the right to control what information you received about the incident. The world seemed to tilt sideways. What really happened? My voice came out steadier than I expected. Reese pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, then slid it across to me. On the screen was a scanned document, an official police report dated October 14th, 2005. 2005. I recognized the date, the night that changed everything. Your sister Natalie was driving, he said quietly. She was 16 years old, learner's permit, not a full license. Your parents were arguing with her about staying out past curfew the night before. You were in the back seat. I couldn't breathe. According to witness testimony, Mrs. Eleanor Chen, who was driving behind your vehicle, Natalie was going 47 miles per hour in a 25 zone, residential area. Your mother turned around in the passenger seat to yell at her. Your father grabbed for the steering wheel when he saw the stop sign coming up. Natalie overcorrected. He paused, watching my face. The car went through a fence and hit a tree. You took the worst of it. Spinal cord injury at L1. The paramedics didn't think you'd make it to the hospital. My hands had gone numb. The drunk driver story was fabricated by your parents, Reese finished. They came to the station the next day while you were in surgery. Your sister was hysterical. Your father had some kind of breakdown in the waiting room. Your mother was the one who held it together enough to make the deal. Deal? She convinced Captain Morrison, he's retired now, lives in Arizona, that pressing charges against Natalie would destroy 2 children instead of helping 1. You were already paralyzed. Nothing could change that. But if Natalie got charged with reckless driving causing serious bodily injury, she'd have a record. Maybe juvenile detention. Definitely no college, no future. The coffee in front of me had gone cold. I hadn't touched it. Dr. Patel backed them up, Reese continued, his voice heavy with something that sounded like old guilt. Signed off on medical reports that were, let's say, strategically vague about how the injuries occurred. Made it easier to sell the hit-and-run narrative. And you? I heard myself ask. You just went along with it? His eyes met mine. I fought it. Hard. I told Morrison it was wrong. That you deserved the truth. That the victim, you, had rights that superseded their desire to protect Natalie's future. But I was 26 years old and 6 months out of the academy. Morrison had 30 years on the force. Your father played golf with the deputy chief. And legally, technically, your parents were within their rights to control the narrative around a minor's medical trauma. He leaned forward. I'm not making excuses. I should have pushed harder. I should have documented everything. I should have... He stopped himself, took a breath. I'm sorry, Devin. I've thought about you a lot over the years. Wondered how you were doing, hoped you were okay, and I've regretted my silence every single day. I stared at the police report on his phone. Witness testimony, speeds, measurements, the objective documentation of the moment my life split into before and after. Can I have a copy of this? I asked. Reese hesitated, then nodded. I'll email it to you. And Devin, there's more. The original investigation file was sealed, but it shouldn't have been. This was a traffic accident, not a criminal case requiring sealing. Someone pulled strings. My father. That would be my guess. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the email Reese had sent. 3 attachments. The police report, witness statement from Eleanor Chen, and a third document I hadn't expected. Internal correspondence from October 2005 showing Captain Morrison discussing the case with someone at the district attorney's office. The email chain was brief but damning. Morrison, family requesting no charges against juvenile driver. Victim, minor, age 9, stabilized. Parents agree to private resolution. DA office, unusual but not unprecedented. Any evidence of intentional harm? Morrison, none. Appears to be negligence, plus family dispute. Parents insistent on keeping juvenile driver's record clean. Father is well connected. DA office. Unless victim or guardian objects, we won't pursue. Family matter. But I was the victim, and I was 9 years old. No one asked me. I forwarded the email to my personal account, then to a cloud backup, then to a USB drive I kept in my desk drawer. Evidence. The word kept echoing in my head. I was thinking like someone preparing for war. The next morning I called Natalie. She answered on the 3rd ring, voice bright and fake. Hey, little brother. How are you? I know. Silence. Then, know what? Everything. Officer Reese sent me the police report, the witness statements, the emails between Morrison and the DA's office. I heard her breath catch. When she spoke again, the brightness was gone. Devin, listen. I'm not listening to anything. I'm talking. You drove the car. You were speeding. Mom and Dad covered it up. Dr. Patel sealed the records. And all of you let me spend 19 years believing I was the victim of some random drunk driver who got away with it. We protected you. You protected yourself. My voice was remarkably calm. You got to go to college. Got to have a career. Got to walk through the world on 2 legs while I learned to navigate it on wheels. And you never once thought I deserved to know the truth. It would have destroyed the family, she said. And there was pleading in her voice now. It destroyed me. I hung up. 10 minutes later, my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. Then my father called. Voicemail. Then Natalie again. I blocked her number. By evening, I had 17 missed calls and 6 text messages ranging from desperate to angry. I didn't read them. Instead, I opened my laptop and searched for medical malpractice attorneys specializing in sealed records. The first 3 law firms I called said they couldn't help me. The statute of limitations had passed. I was an adult now. What happened happened. One lawyer lawyer actually laughed when I explained the situation, a dry, bitter sound. Your parents had every legal right to make medical decisions for you when you were 9. I'm sorry, but there's no case here. The fourth call went differently. Thorne and Associates. This is Jennifer speaking. I need to speak with an attorney about accessing sealed medical records from a childhood injury. One moment. Classical music filled my ear for 30 seconds. Then a new voice, deeper, with the kind of authority that comes from years of courtroom battles. This is Rebecca Thorne. No relation, I assume. Devin Thorne. And no relation that I know of. Tell me what happened, Devin. I told her. Everything. The overheard conversation, Officer Reese, the police report, the sealed medical files. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, there was a long pause. How old are you now? She asked. 28. And you want the medical records unsealed. I want everyone to know what they did. Another pause. Then, Mr. Thorne, I'm going to be very direct with you. What your family did was morally reprehensible. It was also, unfortunately, legal at the time. Parents have broad discretion over medical information involving minor children. Dr. Patel didn't violate any laws by following your parents' wishes regarding what to tell you. My heart sank. However, she continued, and I could hear the shift in her tone, the sealing of those records wasn't standard procedure for a traffic accident. That suggests someone pulled strings, and if those strings were pulled improperly, if money changed hands, if threats were made, if there was any kind of official misconduct in the sealing process, then we might have grounds to challenge it. How do we find that out? We file a motion to unseal, force them to defend the original sealing in open court. Discovery process might reveal how it really went down. At minimum, it'll create a public record of what happened to you. How much does this cost? My retainer is $5,000. But Mr. Thorne, she paused, I'm willing to work on contingency for this one. Something about your case bothers me, and I'd like to find out what. I hired her that day. The motion to unseal was filed on a Friday afternoon. By Monday morning, my father's attorney, Charles Whitmore, a partner at some downtown firm with marble floors and associates who wore ties that cost more than my monthly rent, had filed an opposition brief arguing that the records should remain sealed to protect the privacy of all parties involved. Rebecca Thorne sent me the brief with a single-line email. They're scared. Good. She was right. The opposition brief was desperate, citing medical privacy laws, family therapy considerations, even arguing that unsealing the records would cause me renewed psychological trauma. The irony was staggering. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. In the meantime, I started pulling every thread I could find. I called Mrs. Eleanor Chen, the witness from the police report. It took me 4 days to track her down. She'd moved to Sacramento in 2008, but when I finally reached her, she remembered the accident immediately. Oh God, she said, the little boy in the back seat. I'm that little boy. I'm 28 now. I testified, she said quickly. I gave a statement to the police. I told them exactly what I saw. The older girl was driving way too fast. The parents were screaming at her. I saw the mother turn around right before she stopped. You didn't know? I just found out 2 weeks ago. Jesus Christ. She was quiet for a moment. I wondered if you knew. I thought about reaching out over the years, but I didn't know how. And honestly, I figured the police had told you everything. They didn't. What do you need from me? She asked. I'll help however I can. Would you be willing to give a deposition or testify if it comes to that? Absolutely. I added her name to the list Rebecca was building. Next, I went after Dr. Patel. That was harder. He was still practicing, still the family physician for half the neighborhood, still had that gentle bedside manner I remembered from childhood checkups. But he'd also been complicit in the biggest lie of my life. Rebecca's investigator, a woman named Lisa Ortiz, with 15 years in corporate fraud investigation, pulled Dr. Patel's financial records from 2005. It took her a week and cost me another $1,000 I didn't really have, but what she found was worth it. In November 2005, 1 month after my accident, Dr. Patel had made a down payment on a beach house in Malibu, $200,000 cash. This doesn't prove anything by itself, Lisa cautioned when she showed me the bank records, but it's interesting timing, and when I cross-referenced his income from the medical practice, there's no way he should have had that kind of cash available. You think my parents paid him off? I think it's worth asking the question in a deposition. We added Dr. Patel to the witness list. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying moments from my childhood, looking for signs I'd missed. The way my parents had always been oddly generous with Natalie, paid for her college entirely, helped with her down payment on a house, never seemed to question her choices. The way they'd been supportive but distant with me, helpful but never quite guilty? No, they'd been guilty. I just hadn't recognized it as guilt. I remembered being 14, asking my mom why the drunk driver was never caught. She'd said the police did their best, but sometimes people get away. That's just how life is sometimes, sweetie. Unfair. I remembered my father teaching me to drive my adaptive vehicle when I was 7 17. He'd been patient, encouraging, but there was something brittle in his smile. "You're doing great, Devin. You're going to be just fine." I remembered Natalie visiting me in the hospital during one of my surgeries when I was 12. She'd brought magazines and candy and sat with me for an hour, talking about nothing important. When she left, I'd thought it was sweet. Now, I wondered if it was penance. The hearing was in courtroom 4B of the county courthouse, a Wednesday morning at 10:01 a.m. Rebecca met me outside at 9:30, carrying 2 briefcases and wearing a suit that probably cost what I made in a month. "They'll try to settle," she said as we went through security. "Be ready for that. They'll offer money, an apology, anything to keep this from becoming public." "I don't want their money." "I know, but they're going to offer anyway." She was right. Judge Patricia Mendoza, 23 years on the bench according to the nameplate on her desk, called the case at 10:07. Before Rebecca could even finish her opening statement, Charles Whitmore stood up. "Your Honor, the Thorne family would like to request a brief recess to discuss a possible settlement with Mr. Devin Thorne." Judge Mendoza raised an eyebrow. "We just started, Mr. Whitmore." "Nevertheless, Your Honor, we believe a private resolution might be in everyone's best interest." Rebecca turned to me, raised an eyebrow in question. I shook my head. "My client declines," Rebecca said clearly. Whitmore's expression flickered, surprise, then annoyance. "Perhaps if Mr. Devin Thorne understood the full scope of what we're prepared to offer." "My client understands perfectly," Rebecca cut him off. "He's not interested in your money. He's interested in the truth becoming public record." Judge Mendoza leaned forward. "Mr. Whitmore, does your client wish to proceed with the hearing or not?" My father's lawyer looked back at where my parents sat in the gallery. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. But I heard the whispered conference, the urgent tones. "We'll proceed, Your Honor," Whitmore said finally. The hearing took 4 hours. Rebecca presented the police report, Officer Reese's testimony, he'd submitted a written affidavit, Mrs. Chen's statement, and the investigative findings about Dr. Patel's suspicious financial windfall. Whitmore argued medical privacy, family therapy privilege, the settled nature of events from 19 years ago. He painted a picture of a family trying to protect a traumatized child from additional pain, making difficult choices in impossible circumstances. He never once addressed the fact that they'd lied to me for 19 years. Judge Mendoza took a 15-minute recess before ruling. When she came back, her expression was unreadable. "This is an unusual case," she began. "The court recognizes that parents have significant discretion over medical information concerning minor children. The court also recognizes that Mr. Devin Thorne was the victim in the underlying incident, and that he has a compelling interest in accessing his own medical records." My hands gripped the armrests of my wheelchair. However, the more troubling aspect of this case is the apparent irregularity in the sealing process itself. Standard traffic accident reports are public record. Medical files may be private, but the mechanism by which these records were sealed appears to have bypassed normal procedures. She looked directly at Whitmore. "Mr. Whitmore, your clients have argued that unsealing these records would cause psychological harm to Mr. Thorne. Yet Mr. Thorne is here, as an adult, specifically requesting access to his own medical history. The court finds the opposition's arguments unpersuasive." My heart was hammering. The motion to unseal is granted. All records related to the October 14, 2005 traffic accident involving Devin Thorne will be made available to him within 10 business days. Furthermore, given the irregularities in the original sealing process, the court is ordering an investigation into whether proper procedures were followed in 2005. The gavel came down. Rebecca's hand was on my shoulder. We won, but I wasn't done yet. The records arrived 8 days later, delivered by courier in a sealed envelope that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I opened it alone in my apartment, spread the contents across my kitchen table, medical charts showing the extent of my injuries, surgery notes, physical therapy assessments, and there, buried in the middle, a notation from Dr. Patel dated October 16, 2005. "Parents adamant that patient not be informed of sister's role in accident. Have agreed to support narrative of external driver to minimize family trauma. Believe this approach serves patient's best psychological interests." There it was, in writing, the conspiracy documented in clinical language. But there was something else. A second note, dated November 3, 2005. "Met with Richard and Margaret Thorne regarding ongoing care plan. Family has expressed appreciation for handling of sensitive information. $200,000 donation made to Medical Practice Building Fund in gratitude. Not a beach house down payment, a payoff disguised as a charitable donation." I scanned every page, uploaded them to my computer, backed them up to 3 different cloud services. Then I called the one person who could help me make sure this story didn't stay buried. Trevor Walsh, investigative journalist for the Metro Journal. We'd gone to high school together. He'd been covering local corruption and institutional failures for 5 years now, had won 2 state press awards for a series on police misconduct. Devin Thorne, he said when he answered. I heard a rumor you were taking your family to court. The rumor's true, and I have a story for you. We met that afternoon at the same coffee shop where I'd met Officer Reese. Trevor brought a recorder, a notepad, and the kind of focused intensity that made me understand why people talk to him. I told him everything, showed him everything. He didn't interrupt until I finished. This is massive, he said quietly. You understand this will blow up your family completely. There's no walking this back. I know. Your sister will likely lose her job. Your parents will be publicly humiliated. Dr. Patel could lose his medical license. I know. He studied my face. And you're okay with that? They took 19 years from me, I said. They lied to my face every single day. They let me believe I was the victim of some random tragedy when the truth is they chose to protect my sister instead of protecting me. They chose her future over my right to know what happened to my own body. I leaned forward. So yes, Trevor, I'm okay with that. I'm more than okay with it. The article ran on a Sunday morning, front page of the Metro Journal's print edition, and featured prominently on their website. Trevor had done his homework, tracked down Captain Morrison in Arizona, got a phone interview where the retired cop admitted to having concerns at the time about the family's handling of the incident, found records showing the $200,000 donation to Dr. Patel's practice, even got a quote from Officer Vincent Reese expressing his long-standing regret about not fighting harder for transparency. The headline was simple: Family's decades-long cover-up left son in dark about accident that left him paralyzed. By noon, it had been shared 18,000 times on social media. By evening, the local news stations were running follow-up stories. By Monday morning, Dr. Patel had been suspended pending a medical board investigation. My phone rang constantly. I ignored most calls, but I answered when I saw Rebecca Thorne's name. They want to talk, she said without preamble. Who? Your parents. And Natalie. Whitmore called me an hour ago. They want to make a public apology. They want to... No, Devin, no apologies, no statements, no reconciliation. They had 19 years to tell me the truth. They chose silence. Now they get to live with the consequences. She was quiet for a moment. Okay, I'll tell Whitmore. Rebecca? Yeah? Thank you for everything. You did this, Devin. I just filed the paperwork. The fallout was swift and brutal. Natalie's employer, a tech startup that prided itself on ethical culture, terminated her 3 days after the article ran. Not for the accident itself, but for the lie, for the cover-up, for the pattern of choosing self-protection over accountability. My parents' church community, the one they'd been part of for 30 years, asked them quietly to take a break from their volunteer positions. Too much negative attention, too many questions from parishioners. Dr. Patel's medical license was suspended pending investigation. The $200,000 donation came under scrutiny from both the medical board and the state attorney general's office. Tax fraud was mentioned. Improper influence was mentioned. And me? I started getting emails, hundreds of them. People I'd never met telling me they believed me, they supported me, they'd experienced similar betrayals. Disability rights advocates reached out wanting to feature my story. Other journalists requested interviews. I gave one interview to Trevor Walsh for a follow-up piece. I said what I needed to say, that truth matters, that victims deserve honesty, that protecting the perpetrator at the victim's expense is a betrayal that can never be justified. Then I went quiet. 6 weeks after the article ran, my parents showed up at my apartment building. I watched them from my window, standing by their car in the visitor parking lot, arguing with each other. My mother was crying. My father's shoulders were hunched in a way I'd never seen before. They buzzed my apartment 3 times. I didn't answer. On the 4th buzz, I picked up the intercom. Devin, please. My mother's voice was thick with tears. Please just let us talk to you. You had 19 years to talk to me, I said. You chose not to. We were trying to protect you. You were protecting yourselves. And Natalie, but never me. We made a mistake. My father's voice now. We made a terrible mistake, but we're still your family. I looked at the framed photo on my bookshelf. Me at 9 years old, a week before the accident, grinning at the camera with both my parents behind me. Natalie off to the side, 16 and sullen, already halfway to the moment that would change everything. You stopped being my family the day you decided to lie to me, I said. You just forgot to tell me. I hung up the intercom. From the window, I watched them stand there for another 10 minutes. Then they got in their car and drove away. I never saw them again. 2 months later, I got a letter from Natalie, handwritten, 6 pages long, arriving in a plain white envelope with no return address. I read the first paragraph. Devin, I know you'll probably throw this away without reading it, but I had to try. What we did to you was unforgivable. I was 16 and stupid and terrified, and Mom and Dad made me believe that protecting me was the right thing to do. But I'm 26 now, and I know better. I know what we stole from you. I know there's no apology big enough. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I threw it away without reading the rest. Some truths, once revealed, can't be unsaid. Some betrayals can't can't be apologized away. And some families aren't built on love or loyalty. They're built on lies that eventually crumble under their own weight. I didn't destroy my family by exposing the truth. They destroyed it the moment they chose to hide it.